I think one of the top three things about living in the North Country is our swimming opportunities. We have not too crazy hot summers with extraordinary places to take a dip. That's why when an algae bloom closes a beach on Lake Champlain, it feels especially cruel. Researchers are taking to the water to figure out exactly what's going wrong and if there's a way to fix it. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Advisory services offered through Hightower Advisors LLC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. And Kinney Drugs, now accepting S3 Nations benefits and OTC Network Wellness benefit cards for eligible over-the-counter health items. Details at KinneyDrugs.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, July 14th. First up, Governor Kathy Hochul has ordered a moratorium of up to 1 year on large data centers in New York. It would be the first statewide temporary ban in the country. As Samuel King with the New York Public News Network reports, the governor's order follows a moratorium bill that the legislature passed last month.
Members of the governor's team say the moratorium bill that lawmakers passed is complicated and will take some time to work through. And Hochul feels the state needs to act sooner to address concerns about large data center projects. Her order pauses state environmental permits for 1 year in order to build a regulatory framework that protects the environment and ratepayers. Earlier this year, she told state regulators to shape plans to require data centers to pay more for their energy or provide their own. She now wants regulators to develop consistent environmental impact standards for the centers, a process that could take up to a year. Hochul also wants to pursue legislation next session that would repeal sales tax exemptions for massive data centers in New York. In Albany, I'm Samuel King for the New York Public News Network.
A fire damaged the interior of Evans and White Ace Hardware in Potsdam Monday morning. Video shows a heavy blaze and smoke billowing out of the building on Fall Island along Maple Street. Firefighters from across St. Lawrence County, assisted by law enforcement, fought the fire for nearly 10 hours from 6 in the morning to late afternoon. No one was in the building at the time of the fire and no one was injured. Evans and White has been operating for over a century in Potsdam, from when it was first opened in 1920. In a social media post, the owners said the store will remain closed as they assess the damage. Officials say the cause of the fire is under investigation. The pilot of a small plane was killed after crashing near a remote airport in the southern Adirondacks Sunday evening. Emily Russell has details.
Ken Andrew was flying from Poughkeepsie in Westchester County to Piseco Lake in the southern Adirondacks on Sunday. Andrew was 74 years old. He was piloting a single-engine, 4-seater Cessna plane. According to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, Andrew crashed about 150 yards from the runway at the Piseco Airport. That was around 7 p.m. on Sunday. Officials say after the crash, the plane was engulfed in flames. As of Monday evening, officials hadn't released any details about the cause of the crash. Andrew was the only person on board. According to his LinkedIn profile, Andrew had been a member of the Civil Air Patrol for decades. He also had been teaching aviation maintenance at SUNY Dutchess Community College in Westchester County, near where he lived. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office was assisted at the scene of the crash by state forest rangers, local ambulance crews, as well as the fire departments from Piseco, Lake Pleasant, and Speculator. Investigators from the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board traveled to Piseco on Monday. The crash is under investigation. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
Poisonous and frankly gross algae blooms have become a norm every summer on Lake Champlain. The New York Public News Network's Pat Bradley boarded a University of Vermont research vessel to learn more.
Cyanobacteria blooms have already closed beaches in Burlington on some of the hottest days of the season. Scientists in the region are researching the organisms that can occasionally cause a toxic bloom along Lake Champlain shore. A group gathered beside the Eco Center for Lake Champlain, where the research vessel Marcel Melosira is docked. After receiving safety instructions and donning life vests, people boarded.
Hold your stuff here.
And were led to the ship's interior laboratory by UVM Lake Champlain Sea Grant Associate Director Chris Stepanuk.
We need to be in the classroom while we are leaving the dock area.
As the boat moves past the Burlington breakwater to sail south to Shelburne Bay, scientists provided a primer on their research into the cyanobacteria, or blue-green algae, blooms. Lake Champlain Basin Program Chief Scientist Matthew Vaughn offered what he called a Cyanobacteria 101 lesson, noting that cyanobacteria and blue-green algae reference the same organisms.
Cyanobacteria are a large group of primitive bacteria, and they're native to just about every ecosystem on Earth. So they've been in Lake Champlain since it was formed, and most of the time they exist in the lake and they do not cause harm. So cyanobacteria are microscopic. So what you're seeing during a bloom is actually colonies, so many, many thousands of cells clumping together. Now, one thing I always say is that this is a worldwide issue because humans have altered our ecosystem and are now putting more nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen into our fresh waterways. So this is something that is a challenge throughout the country and throughout the world.
When the boat reaches Shelburne Bay, UVM research vessel specialist Eleanor Duva lowers a sample collector or plankton net into the water.
Here we go, down into the water. So we'll send it down until we pretty much can't see it. So that way we're sampling most of the top layer of water, the photic zone. All right, I'm coming up. And there's the net in sight again. So we've scooped up the plankton that were living at the surface of the lake.
Duva takes the sample to the lab and places it in a microscope that displays the contents on a large screen. While it doesn't have much cyanobacteria, an invasive plankton was captured.
Lots of good stuff immediately. And what we're catching right here is the namesake of both the spiny and fishhook water flea have this long tail, I suppose, that is barbed. You can see how all this phytoplankton is stuck to this barb at the end of its tail right there. But all these ones that are moving around on their own are zooplankton.
UVM Vermont Limnology Laboratory research scientist Caitlin Warner says the samples they take in the summer often detect cyanobacteria.
We don't filter out cyanobacteria because we're curious about the entire phytoplankton community as a whole. So our lab at the Vermont Limnology Lab is looking at phytoplankton community composition, what environmental drivers are like changing these communities and how they kind of shift over time in response to changes in weather patterns and nutrient cycling and all of that. So we really are interested in like who's all here and who all kind of exists together and how those patterns might change over time.
The severity and even the existence of cyanobacteria blooms vary from lake to lake. Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation state limnologist Peter Isles says there are numerous factors that lead to more or less cyanobacteria in the water.
Factors like the size and depth of a lake can have a big impact. Certainly the land use in the watershed, draining towards each lake is a major impactor. And then just really the whole shape of the lake bottom, how much shallow area you have versus deep area.
Back on shore, Stepanuk says they highlighted cyanobacteria because problematic blooms have been occurring over the past few summers.
It felt like it was the right topic because we knew that they happen, and public safety-wise, we want people to understand it. So that was the reason for the choice, and because I knew there was a number of different researchers engaged in trying to understand and make recommendations around cyanobacteria. There's going to be blooms, there's great research happening, and it's a public safety issue.
The Lake Champlain Sea Grant and the Lake Champlain Basin Program are planning to conduct a public awareness survey to find out what the public knows about lake and watershed issues. In Plattsburgh, I'm Pat Bradley for the New York Public News Network.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Caitlin Scholl of Lake Placid and Raphael Weinrith Brown of Ottawa. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.